do a live. I wonder if I can add John. Yeah, that works. Well, I'm here. So, no one's here, so I can just BS for a little bit, which is cool in case this gets watched back. But starting a little early, getting things up and running. Hey, we got one viewer. Hey, how's it going, guys? So let's pull up some campaigns. Let's prepare or pretend like we're prepared. So just me today. Sorry, everybody. You're stuck with me. John is a little sick boy. I am early, Adam. Figured I'd just hop on and get things going and make sure I'm not ill prepared, even though clearly I am. But no. But yeah, John's not gonna be here. John's sick. So it's just gonna be me doing a little fluffing. So you guys are going to witness some fluffing for about another 8-10 minutes before AJ hops on, and we'll have some fun. So I'm trying to pull up some campaigns real fast, give some updates maybe even. So yeah. And Kimi Kosmic. Sweet. All right. So for the handful of people here a little early, you guys get, hey, how about this? You guys get a sneak peek that no one else will get, and it makes me feel better because that way I'm not sharing everything. I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek, a little update on a new comic I'm coming out with called Refuge. If you guys hung out with us during the last live stream, you'll know a little bit about it. I didn't reveal this cover. I wonder if John's watching. By the way, we are not live streaming on the BentBox Twitter account because it's stupid. I changed the name of the Twitter account to something about Blossom, and now it's in review for 7 days or who knows how long. So apparently I can't go live now. Super cool. Thanks, Elon. So we're live streaming on John's Twitter. So hey, everyone who knows John or follows John. So anyway, Refuge. I'm going to show you guys something I have not showed John yet. And if John's watching, he can see it. But he cannot comment about it unless he comments about it. Let me show you. So this is going to be the special limited edition secondary place cover, aka it's either going to be, it's probably going to be Indiegogo because we're probably going to launch it at 2 different places, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Irregardless, this right here. Hold on, let me make sure it looks all nice and pretty. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. There it is. Okay. Let me know what you guys think of this. Well, crap. Well, John, you're not here, but I wanted to show people this, and you included. So let me present to you the special edition, or the limited Indiegogo exclusive. There it is. Let's figure out what to do. Window. Tell me what you think of this. I love it. I really do. I didn't want to show anyone until the campaign came out for this one, but I showed off Gabriel's. I think I showed off the standard edition cover, but this is going to be a little treat for the 3 people currently watching, including John, who's not watching. But this is by John. John's fluffing our numbers. Not helpful. I'm trying to track the real stats on here, and over here I have John watching in 2 different places with lag in between them, I'm sure. Anyway, what do you guys think of this? It's by a guy named Brian. He has a last name, believe it or not. Give me a second. I forgot his last name, and now I feel bad. Like I said, I was not super prepared. I wasn't going to show this off, but since we only had a couple people watching, I figured I would. Brian Middleton. This is by Brian Middleton. He is really bumping those views for us. He's out of Ohio. I actually met him through a local comic shop owner. Said he was a good friend of his who's done a little bit of indie work, not a ton, but I liked his style. Very Calvin and Hobbes, which for anyone who knows anything about the comic or is any I haven't really shared much, but some of what's planned for the comic, Calvin and Hobbes is a very good vibe, even though I'm trying to give the exact opposite vibe before it comes out, because, you know, cliffhangers and all that fun stuff and plot twists. You need to keep things twisty. But yeah, so that's that. I don't want to show too many more people because this is supposed to be a secret, and you guys will see it later. But I love it, and I love it so much. It's definitely going to be a running. He's going to be one of our artists for the series for sure. Because we're going to have a lot more Calvin and Hobbes style adventuring that goes on further down the line, and I think this is just a perfect style for it. So to have a really cool cover with this as we go with each issue is going to be great. So that was that. Before our guest is here, but before we bring him in, we're gonna do another update since John's here as well in spirit. Let's go over the Blossom Kickstarter, see how it's doing, show everyone a little bit of update on that, because it's awesome and super important to us, and we're hoping that it does well. It's doing pretty well so far. So let's look at how that's going. All right. So we're almost at 50%. Or John's almost at 50%. 23 days to go. I was in a writer's workshop the other day, and we were talking about Kickstarter campaigns. We were talking about what is like eye-popping, basically studying campaigns that do very well. And so I've been going through different campaigns, obviously looking through this one. John did a fantastic job with this campaign. It looks phenomenal. I mean, obviously the book as well, but the campaign looks really solid. I love the page. But yeah. Anyway, anyone out there who has not already backed this, please go back this. That would be huge for us. John specifically. If you're not familiar with it, it is Blossom. It's a technically, I think, a one-shot at the moment that is just a fantastic story. I don't really want to get into it too much. Feel free to go check it out. But as you can tell, the art is incredible. It's got a really deep backstory to why John created it. And as an added bonus, don't say we never did anything for anybody. 100% of the proceeds, that's right, 100% of the proceeds are going to the Smile Train Foundation, which is awesome. I think it's a great idea. I'm in love with it. And I don't have any more information on this. John can update us whenever he stops being a pansy and gets over his being sick. But supposedly the Smile Train reached out, saw the campaign, saw what we're trying to do, and John's going to be in talks with them. So that's awesome. Hopefully we can push more traffic to here. We can get more money for them. That's the whole point. So yeah, almost at 50%, 59 backers. Let's get to 49 backers. Let's get to 50. Let's get to 50%. 50-50 sounds good. All right. Stop sharing. All right. I think that's pretty much it. No more updates. If only John was watching. Yeah, I'm glad he's watching because we have 4 viewers and 3 of them are John. So at least 2 of them. All right, everybody. So that's all I really feel like doing for updates. I have a couple extra, but I don't have them fleshed out enough yet. So maybe we're going to have Star Million on next week. You know him as the creator of Orium. Also a good friend of BentBox, works with us real closely. Maybe whenever we have him on, we'll go over some really cool updates we got. So, but for now, AJ, I believe, are you ready? Can I get a thumbs up that you are A-OK, AJ? There we go. We got the thumbs up. All right, everybody. Without further ado, AJ. Hey, my man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How's it going?
I'm hanging in there. Feeling good, feeling great.
Good.
Actually,
that's
feeling
better than John. So we're good. John's a little sick, dude. We're down here in Florida.
Okay.
I think and school just started, and I
All
think
right.
it's just going around. My son has a 102 fever right now. I currently have a cough drop in my mouth because I feel it coming, and I'm like, it's just gonna be just one of those things, man. This time of year.
Know, my wife put me on a good remedy that seems to be an all around good everything killer, and it's fresh ginger. So you got to get just some ginger, just grate it, into a cup, some honey, like a lemon, like maybe half a lemon or maybe a whole lemon, and then just pour some hot water with some tea, with a green tea bag or something like that.
There you go.
And just the ginger, the honey, and the lemon. I know it's just regular stuff, but I think it's the fresh ginger. The fresh ginger puts it over the top. And it really helps the cough. It helps any respiratory stuff. It's really good for that.
That's God's medicine right there. It, and it works typically. I mean, that's why I should do it more. But I knew a guy. I used to work third shift at an airport, and he was this old guy, probably in his 60s. He looked phenomenal. And I remember, I think one of our team members were out sick one day, and he was ragging on him and everything like that. And we're just sitting there on lunch break, and he goes, "I haven't been sick in 50 years." And I'm like, okay. I was like, "What do you do?" And he says, "I swallow a whole clove of garlic every day in the morning." There you go. And I was like, "And your breath isn't awful." I mean,
that's
right?
that's pretty hardcore.
That's hardcore. But I mean, if you're not sick for 50 years,
I mean, the health properties of garlic are really phenomenal. Really phenomenal. Yeah, I would say throw some garlic in there too if you could tolerate it.
Some garlic, some ginger.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, that's the health portion of our podcast.
Yeah, and that's
green tea, some ginger. Specifically, you, John. We need you back for next week.
Health remedies from comic book writers.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey, we said let's make some content. I don't think too many. I don't know how many comic book creators are making that kind of content. So maybe we found our niche. There we go. Green tea. There you go. I'm deathly allergic to green tea, so I'm going to bypass that part. But everything else sounds great.
Shout out to you, John. I hope you get better.
Yep, he'll be fine. I think it'll pass in a week. We'll see.
Okay. Okay.
So nice to have you back on, AJ.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for promoting and all that type of stuff. I appreciate it. It's been a hectic week for me, so it's been tough. I'm heading out to Alaska next week, so
interesting. Why going to Alaska?
Because my mother, it's on her bucket list, and she just had a birthday, a big monumental birthday, and we said, while we still can, we might as well just try to make that trip. So
that's awesome.
We're heading up there. Me, my wife, my son, and my mom. It's gonna be a great trip. I can't wait.
No, that sounds awesome. I've always wanted to go to Alaska. Are you doing a cruise, or are you just doing like the normal Alaska
So
stuff?
that's what made it really tough. She gets seasick. She's always had like really. So my initial thing was cruise, because everyone does the Alaskan cruise, right?
Yeah.
But then, so I had to plan a trip that was not cruise. So we're going up into Denali, Alaska. We're gonna go to try to see the Northern Lights.
That sounds awesome.
So yeah.
Or sneaker a little ginger, a little honey on the cruise, and she'll be fine. You'll be like, hey,
exactly. The ginger and the honey it fixes everything. I mean,
fixes everything. In case you didn't know, from two comic book writers, we know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But that sounds awesome.
You guys have been doing really well. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to just randomly segue.
Praise,
I don't know if you had an order of things you wanted to talk about, but I
like doing this with zero prep, and I used to do podcast stuff, and I'm a connoisseur podcast. I just like chatting.
Okay,
there we go. Let's chat it out. It's a better conversation.
Absolutely. No, I just noticed you guys have been doing really well with your content curation and creation. Just like the TikToks and the videos, and just it looks good. It looks, it's definitely above average content creation from guys like us. Yeah. Which I'm still horrible at, by the way. Like, I can't even, like, I had to ask my wife today how to even edit a friggin' video on my phone. Like, I don't even know what to do at all. Yeah. Like, I don't even know where we are. Like, are we on the internet right now? Like, where are we
we're
broadcasting
in the cloud, man. We're up in the sky.
We're on, because I see you're on Twitter. We're on Twitter right now.
Dude, we're
on X. We're on X. I mean, sorry, Elon. Elon, don't cancel me.
No. I don't want you to apologize today, at least, because I changed.
Bro, he's got microscopic drones flying around.
All right, well, bring it on.
Gotta watch what you say.
Bring it on. Right before you jumped on, I changed my Twitter handle to something about Blossom, John's new Kickstarter, because that's how you do it. You say Blossom out now or whatever and your account goes into review for like 48 hours, and I did it yesterday. And while you're in review, you can't stream to X. I was really pissed off to say the least. So, Elon, we're taking our apology back for that last part, but fix it, and then you can get your apology back. But we are streaming to John's X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'm just pretending like I know what I'm doing. So don't give me a ton of praise. A lot of this is fake it till you make it. That has been one of my favorite sayings in life, because it's very true.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
I believe everyone's just faking it. I don't think anyone has it figured out. There's not a human being on this planet. Like, the number one guy on this world is like, someone's gonna catch me. Someone's gonna figure me out. Know. Like, he doesn't even know what's going on. Like, it's all about faking it. Because for one, it's a simulated reality. We already know there's already equations that prove we're living in a simulated reality. Because
the amount that I've seen is a little disconcerting. I'm not gonna lie.
If simulated realities were possible, then that means they've already been constructed or something like that. I don't know. I'm just listening.
If you deal with the realm of probabilities, everything's been done or something. Now we're just Marvel writers messing with the multiverse, and because
there's a greater chance that we're living in a simulated reality than we're living in a real one. I think that's what it is. There's just it's just math, So.
Well, I wasn't good at math, so I have to take your word for it. But yeah, I'm a fake it till you make it guy. So I appreciate the love for the content. That's funny, because John and I have been saying that. So not a lot of people know this. John and I, a lot of people do know that John and I have been like childhood friends for a long time. We actually started a little stupid podcast, just having fun, when everyone started one, because that was just the thing to do. Obviously we weren't taking it super seriously, but we did get, the cameras and nice lighting, and that's why if you see some of that content, that's actually from old content. So this is just me peeling the curtain back a little bit because I want to be truthful with you all.
Well, you know what? Repurposing all that stuff is an excellent
on my
idea.
Computer, and I'm like, and we actually had a company meeting where we're like, God, we got to be content creators now. Is that's what we've been, put into? And I think, so I said, well, let's get our feet wet with what we already have. And now we are definitely trying to work on, basically very similar style. So if you like it, that's helpful. That's helpful information for us to know that we're on the right track. And then, and now we're just going to be doing a little bit more stuff now.
There's just a podcast look that podcasts have nowadays, and you guys got the beard, you got the face, you got the voice. It all blends together. We even had a
producer and everything.
The aesthetic looks very podcasty, and like I said, you're not seeing a lot of comic book guys making that type of content. So,
I appreciate it. I would love to do it more, to be completely honest. But as you know,
right,
editing a video on your phone is a pain. And then I don't know if you've ever tried to. I did all the editing for that. I don't know if you've ever tried to edit a hour-and-a-half long podcast. It takes about 4 hours. I'm sure if I got more proficient, it would be less. But let's just say it is a job and a half to do that kind of stuff. So like if you're
to clip it, I mean, conceivably, if you could do what you're doing now, where you shoot a couple hours, and then you can extrapolate, dozens of clips from that 1 hour, and then pepper those out over several months.
Well, we have about 30 or 40 more clips just sitting on my computer.
Yeah, there you go. And then you wouldn't have to do that much labor, like do it quarterly,
Yeah.
And then you'd have enough content to hold you over into the next. And then you just mix that in with content like this. And then I don't know, just while you're doing the podcast, just change your shirt like 5 times. And then that way no one realizes that you're just pulling from the same episode.
Yeah, there you go. Fake so you make it.
That's how you do it.
That is the plan. I mean, I like it. That's kind of what we're considering doing. The thing I wish is that, because you're up in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
I wish we had more people. I love that podcast look. I love those organic conversations, like just chilling, hanging out. I wish we had more people like local, and where we could have you in the studio. We have a couple people that we interact with frequently. That being able to do something like that, I think would be beneficial to both. To me, it's to you and us. But man, it's a little rough. I mean, this is a nice forum, but that's a little better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing's going to compare to an in-person vibe.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the benefits is that we probably wouldn't be able to do this if it weren't not for the internet. But then, it feels it would definitely be awesome if you could be more connected. I don't know. I mean, if you guys ever travel for a con, maybe try to find some time.
TikTok. I tried to do TikTok, and that's where Adam, if you would like to help me with that, you can always let me know, because that's where I'm showing my age. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing with TikTok. I'm posting on it, but like the whole going live thing, I know a lot of people do it, and they gain some organic followers from TikTok. I don't know how to go live on it. I feel stupid, but I just don't. So there's that. Maybe one day. But I would love to do that. We would love to travel. We're looking into that. That said, what is the con scene like up in like New York, New Jersey, that area? Because I know that obviously, other than like New York Comic Con, the big one, but I've been seeing you hit up some local ones, right? How's that been going?
I mean, there's every level of con, I think, in New York.
Yeah.
You have the small, everything from local art shows, local comic shows, all the way up to New York Comic Con and Anime NYC. and then things like Philly Expo and going up to Boston and even Virginia, BlurredCon. So it very much depends on what type of convention you wanna get into. I think the New York metro area has between New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, you get pretty much every single type of con.
Okay. And you hit up the majority of them, right? Or as many as you can?
If I don't exhibit, I go to over the past 20 years of living around here, I've been to almost every one. So I kind of have a vibe on what each one presents.
Yeah.
Something like Mocha is really cool because it's a lot of indie artsy comic people. But then you get something like the Black Comic Fest at the Schomburg Museum. It's it's like the premier comic book creators in the Black community. Then you get something like New York Comic Con, which is just like that just feels like home. I mean,
really,
it's such a great way to connect to fans. It's such a great way to connect to other comic book creators. The con outside the con, what we used to call in hip hop parking lot pimping. So there's a lot of going to the con but not going inside the con.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, I'll meet me at this restaurant, meet me at this bar after the convention. Or straight up after parties. Just the networking that happens outside because everyone's in town.
Yeah.
Everyone's in town. So that's where everyone gets opportunities to meet. That's where I've done a lot of my networking. I got to meet a lot of people who, I'm now friends with or work with in the comic book industry was by like just hanging out around New York Comic Con. So definitely.
What have you noticed? Which cons do you feel like you do the best at? I'm saying like as an exhibitor.
Right. So
are you talking about like the big ones, the little ones,
Right. The bigger cons are going to be the ones that you always make the most money at. So Anime NYC, Black Comic Fest, BlurredCon, New York Comic Con. It's just a population thing.
Yeah.
There's just more buying power and there's just more people at those conventions. So, but those conventions are also a lot more expensive and a lot more challenging to get into.
Yeah.
So that you have to weigh the costs and the benefits, especially if you're an out-of-towner, your cost is going to be a lot more expensive, right? So there's different ways that I would do out-of-town conventions versus doing ones that are local. Just don't bring as much. You bring as many books as you can, but you don't bring a lot of the extra stuff, right? When I set up my table, I have like banners and I have things that I might bring out just because I'm local. I'm just driving it myself. But if I have to travel to San Diego or something like that, I can't bring all that, all the bells and whistles. Okay. I'm just bringing books, and a tablecloth maybe. So just things you got to factor in when you're looking at the different cons and the cost to value, and also is it, are you going to get networking also has a lot of value. It's hard to put a dollar amount on it. But you might go to a con and you might break even, but the networking that you received from that, or the visibility you received from it, could be way more beneficial. And it could barrel roll into another opportunity somewhere else down the line. So that's one of the things you also have to consider is if you can afford to make it to a con, and if you do the math and you're like, what, we might not make a lot of money on this one, but it's a high profile convention and you'll meet a lot of other creators, or it depends on what you want out of the con. If you just want to make money, then you got to always think about the money, right? But if your purpose is to, progress as a brand or as a creator, and you're looking for different opportunities, then you have to add that as one of the benefits on top of whatever money you may or may not make at the convention.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, we just to give you a little bit of from like our perspective. So as you know, we had a, for some of you might remember as returning guests, we had a fun little chat last time. We were just getting our feet wet. So we've had a couple months under our belt since last time. We've kind of gone. Oh snap! I was gonna ask you.
Actually,
I was gonna ask you about that, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to come off as a.
I'm gonna change my color here so I can show off the goods.
There's a lot of glare on that cover, man.
Yeah,
it's flashy. That last one was okay.
It's because I have my my light on.
There you go. That's good.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I didn't mean to. You were talking, and I just wanted to.
No, I'm
subtly put this on the screen, but now that I have it out here, I just have to really admire the trade dress on the second issue. This is a beautiful comic book, guys. The artwork.
I was gonna ask, but at the same time, you don't want to come off that as that kind of guy. But I will say I've not, because they haven't been out in the wild too much yet. I haven't had much feedback yet, and a lot of the people who have backed the Kickstarter said that they are waiting for their physical copy to even read it. So
yeah,
you might be one of the earliest people to actually have read it. Please.
So I did not finish.
Honest. Okay.
I did not finish reading it. My impression on the story thus far and just the overall presentation is it's so atmospheric. I'm a sucker for details, and the fact that you guys like have every character with a different color text bubble,
yeah,
it's such a great detail. It's an amazing comic, man. Like I'm really pulled into it so far, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to finish it, but
all good. I mean, hey, as soon as you finish it, feel free to DM me and just let me know what you think, because I want some honest feedback. I had such a fun time making this book. Gabriel Fonseca are my artists, obviously, for issue 1 and issue 2, and then the new colorist we ended up hiring a new colorist, Sergio Martinez. They both just killed it, and I just love how it turned out. And we put a bunch of Easter eggs in it, and I'm gonna make a post sometime soon to ask if people see how many people found all the Easter eggs. I love the propaganda versions and really, really like how the story progressed in issue 2. Well, thank you. Thank you, Adam. But yeah, that I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway, back to after that shameless promotion. Let's jump back into, I did have a question though, or I did want to have some comments about cons. So John and I finally got our feet wet this year, and we were trying to hit up as many as possible. We weren't necessarily being super, I wouldn't say we were being irresponsible, but we were basically like, oh, there's a con, let's go. You know what I mean? Especially local, Florida. But then again, Florida, as many people know, is freaking massive, and it takes 11 hours to get to the top of the state. So you might as well be in a different country, especially if you're over in the UK and stuff. It's just massive. So we went to as many cons as we could, at least financially support. The thing we didn't get to go to MegaCon, unfortunately. We didn't get to go to Tampa Bay Comic-Con, unfortunately. So they're like and SuperCon, I think was the other one that we wanted to go to. Basically, like the 3 largest ones in the state, we didn't get to go to. We didn't get to get in. Kind of like what you said. It can be a struggle to get in. Other than that, we went to 2 mid-sized ones. So they're fairly large. And then the rest have been small. The thing I've noticed is the mid-sized ones have been no bueno. Like we didn't make table. Actually, sorry, the Miami one we made table, but that's just making table. We had to get a hotel. It was a 3-day con. You know what I mean? So it was a loss. We did meet a couple cool people, which was great, and I've tried to come in contact with some of them here and there. But
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you said the mid one was no bueno. You didn't make table, and you said that. Would you say that was because of an attendance? Did you have a lot of foot traffic, or
so that was the funny thing, is that for the Otaku Fest is the one in Miami. That's one we went to. It was a fairly large Comic-Con. It was the largest one we've ever been to. We paid for a corner booth like a nice size booth. We had a lot to bring because we really wanted to have more of an experience there. We had like some really cool stuff. So to be fair, we did put a lot of output into it, but it was more of a presence situation type of thing. We wanted to just go all out for this con, see how well it would do. We get there, and unfortunately, I wasn't really being super on my game, and they put us behind a pillar and up against a wall. So the corner booth that we were supposed to have wasn't a corner booth. It was just a wall booth. It was an inline because there's no corner.
You paid extra for that though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I was let's just say I was less than happy. At the end of day 2, we noticed that we were really screwed. Let's just say, the scientific term. And at the end of day 2, I went up to the organizer and I said, hey, I gave him all my complaint. I was like, this is where we're at. I was like, it's not working. I was like, I'm watching people walk past, and then like we catch their eye as they're like way past us, and there's no through traffic this way. I was like, it's not a good spot. I was like, we're struggling here. I was like, I see there's an AFK table over there. Someone didn't show up, and it was just a single booth in the middle of like just in the middle of the con. I said, I'm going to go there tomorrow. Okay. And he goes, well,
you told him. You didn't.
I'm going. No. I was I wasn't thrilled.
Okay.
Yeah. It was hey, I need to make my money back. So I'm going to be doing this. I did at the end be like, that's cool, right? And he did go through the whole thing of like, well, I can't exactly like, it's not a double booth. You paid for a double booth. So this is only a single booth. So I can't like refund you your money. And at that point I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to go there. Okay. And he's like, yeah. So yeah, we went there, made table in the last day. The last day got us to table, all because
you moved. Yeah, so that is something that is it's tough. So I had a con where it was a big con, and I don't want to say which one it was, where I was in kind of a similar situation where I paid for like they had 3 tiers. I paid for like tier 2.
Yeah.
And they put me, there was just like a large throughway where there's going to be a bunch of traffic, and then there was a huge wall just blocking me. And I'm like, yo, what is this? This is crazy. And complained, and they moved me into a really good spot actually. So sometimes complaining helps.
I'm not that kind of guy typically, but it was definitely hey, we're going to be screwed if we don't do this.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil, man. It's a lot of effort doing a con. And especially if you pay, that's why I typically try to pay, because that usually gives you a little bit of leverage. I did another con where I got in, it was really, really hard to get in. And they put me in, like, I wasn't even on the main floor. I was in a whole nother room. It was horrible.
Oh.
And people were complaining. It was not a well put together con, but I ended up doing well at that con just because the main floor was very chaotic and the side room was you had a little bit more space. And what I did is I just tried to dominate that space instead of it was like a separate, like a parallel economy almost, right? Where I just had to do well in this room, and I was okay. But that convention was a really large one, so there was enough money to be made even in the side rooms.
That's great though.
But that's not always going to happen though. So yeah, no, it's tricky, man. It's very challenging. A lot of times size is a problem. Like I have a big banner and I have a medium-sized banner, and a lot of times I don't know which one to bring. I don't know if I'm going to be up against a wall. I don't know if I'm going to be, so getting as early as possible, it helps too, because a lot of times some of the medium and smaller cons are first come, first serve.
Yeah.
So it's always a challenge. It's always a surprise. And you always got to really, really work hard. But the fact that you moved on that last day is good, because
I wish I would have moved on the first day. But it was definitely,
for sure.
We were feeling ourselves though, because that first day we get there and we're like, oh man, this is so much room. And we abused the crap out of the room that they gave us. We abused it because we moved our table way far out because it was a corner booth, but no one was around because we were up against a wall. So we made ourselves big, and we were like this presence there, and we were just like, man, this is nice. And then as we're watching, we're like, oh, people are taking a right down there. circling around the con, and then by the time they get to us, it's just Pillar and then us. And I'm like, oh, we're screwed. And we're like, man, this is not good. So yeah, it was an audible. And the funny thing is, though, I will say, I don't know if you've seen this year. Maybe it's only Florida. Hey, this podcast, I'm so used to saying podcast. This live stream right now is a 101 for indie comic creators. Cons right now. But I noticed that almost every single con we went to, everyone there, pretty much everyone there, the tablers, all the exhibitors, because I don't know if you do it, but if there's ever a lull, I'll walk the con. I'm like, hey man, what's up? How's it going? Like you said, network. I'll specifically hit up the other indie comic creators, talk to them, ask them how the con's going. I'll just talk to 3D printers. I'll just talk to everyone and just try and get a vibe and just be friendly, because I also like just talking to people. But almost every con we went to this year, like 99% of everyone was like, man, this is not going good, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling it too. It's been a slow year, I'll say. And at first I was like, man, is it us? And then I'll go to the other comic book creator and they're like, this is a rough one. I was like, really?
I mean,
I'm like,
I'll say
this is our first time here. So at least
I'll
it made me feel better about that.
This year I didn't do as many cons as I did last year because I've been writing so much. So I had to take, I'm going to be at New York Comic Con, but I'm not tabling. I didn't do Anime NYC. So I will say that the con that I did do earlier this year, I definitely made less money than I made last year. Probably somewhere around 80%, 80 to 90%.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a trend I'm noticing through Florida, but I wasn't sure if you noticed.
Well, so I don't have as much data as you do because I didn't do as many cons. But if I can just base it on that one, there does seem to be a drop off. I mean, I think it's just the economy.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't have as many. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's so many Kickstarters that I want to help fund.
Well, I was just about to say that the indie comic market has also kind of gotten really congested, where there is a new Kickstarter every week, every day, damn near. And that's, and then also it's not just the indie creators like you and I, but it's also major companies are also hopping into the Kickstarter game. And it's weird. I think there's more money being spent on comics, or maybe just as much money, but it's being spread thinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Into different things and different mediums. There's more competition for the comic book dollar.
What do you think about? Let's not get too controversial. What are your thoughts though on these big boys coming in to Kickstarter and throwing up, G.I. Joe and
I mean,
and all that stuff?
It doesn't really seem fair. But what I hope, what I think is happening is that just basically a continuation of my earlier point. It's just the diversification. I mean, not only are they coming into our domain, which if you want to say Kickstarter is our domain, we're kind of going into their domain. I see more indie comics in mainstream comic book stores, and I mean my comics are in comic book stores, a couple of them, in bookstores. So I think there's a little bit of cross pollination there, both ways. But yeah, ultimately it doesn't really seem, it does seem like just a cash grab. But those comic book companies, they're a business like any other, so they're going to follow the money.
Yeah.
And if they see that Kickstarter or just crowdfunding is where people are spending a lot of comic book money, then of course, why wouldn't they pivot towards it? As much as it bothers some of us indie creators, it's just a logical progression.
It makes sense business wise. I mean, I'm with you on it. I feel the same way. it's more of like an annoyance to a certain point where you go like, oh, G.I. Joe got a couple $1 billion. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know.
I got 1,000. That's cool. I mean, it's cool. Like you get that mental thing going on, but definitely makes sense business wise. I get it.
Well, what I'm more pleased about is the DC Digest books and the success of those, and hopefully the growth of that, because that's something that I've been really wanting for a while in the American comic book market, is a real competitor to manga.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what I'm referring to, right? How
I'm only for all the people who wouldn't know, why don't you go ahead and explain? I'm definitely on board.
Right, sure.
I'm like shallowly familiar with it, but
okay, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. So DC Comics has just recently released or re-released a bunch of their classic stories in a smaller kind of digest form, manga size. It's not exactly. I mean, manga has different dimensions, but it's more. Not only is it closer to a manga, but it's also closer to novels and YA graphic novels, which are cut smaller. If you go to a bookstore nowadays, they'll lay out all the YA novels and graphic novels, and they all have the same dimension. And they're both novels and graphic novels now are basically sitting right next to each other in the bookstore. And basically DC cut their books to that size, and they're selling for $10 a pop. So now you can read Watchmen for $10. You can read Batman Year One. You can read, N.K. Jemisin's Green Lantern Far Sector. Like, you can read a lot of classic, new and old graphic novels. A lot of people were complaining about which books were selected. They were like, "Oh, that story's not even the best Green Lantern." I'm like, "Listen, they'll get to all the other Green Lantern books. Just give them some time. Stop complaining." Like, anyway. The idea that they're cutting, because they're complaining for other reasons why, and I don't want to even go down that route. But anyway, the $10 price, the size, and also the distribution. From what I understand, I think they're going to be putting these in like grocery stores or Targets and like Walmarts and stuff like that. Yeah. So
I mean, I've seen tons of stuff in Target and stuff, and that's awesome whenever I see it, because it does bring you back to the good old days of. I know there was a fun little conversation about spinner racks for some weird reason in 7-Eleven that I agree that's not where it's at anymore. Right. But there is that nostalgia when you're walking in Target and you just see a bunch of comic books. You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, we have to create new comic book readers, and we have to, we have to figure out how they're going to interact with this medium, and however way they interact. We have to fill that void. And if manga is exploding, why is manga exploding? Well, a big part of it is the fact that it's paired with anime. And this is one of the things that when people are very critical about the manga versus American comic book conversation, they're leaving that point out, is that manga and anime is paired together. So a lot of the reason the manga explodes is because people are fans of the anime. But I digress. It's the entry point. You can just buy volume 1 of whatever manga story you want to read and just start reading. It's the size, it's the price. It's just an easy, digestible medium. And American comic books are no longer that. American comic books.
I even got this. I'm trying to get into more manga. I haven't been reading as much manga as I would like. And I got this Asian Demi-Human one. This thing's awesome. And so this is volume 2. Blew through volume 1 in about like 2 days. Volume 2, gonna probably read that over the weekend. But it's great.
It's easy to pick up. It's easy to read. It's a fun reading size. It's portable. Comic books you can't really they're hard to even walk around with.
I do like the idea that you mentioned, the portability. Because sometimes you go on a road trip. And I did this a couple months ago with my family. Went to Pennsylvania, bought a bunch of comic books at a local comic book shop, because I typically like going in places and supporting local comic book shops. Even if I'm not from there, I'll just go hang out, talk to the owner. Once again, I'm probably annoying in that way. But and I left with a bunch of comic books, but it is true. It's it's not awkward, but it is they're floppy, because I got a bunch of floppies. And there is something that's just like, oh, cool, this is a book. You know what I mean? And there's something about it where it just feels nice to pick up, thumb through, get to the end. So
it's a very digestible reading experience, and once again, it's the preferred reading experience of this generation. For the physical one, now we have a whole nother digital conversation about web comics and all that type of stuff. But if we're just talking about the physical reading, comic, illustrated, graphic novel, manga experience, this is what they want. So DC, I've been waiting a long time for this to happen, and DC finally jumped the gun and they did it, and they had huge success apparently. So I think they're going to continue down the streak, and I think other comic book companies are going to follow suit. Myself included, I'm thinking about trying to cut some of my newer comics that I'm working on into that size, and producing them that way as well.
I was just about to ask that if you had any plans to do that, because I did see the DC Digest. I saw, I had that mental just like kind of popped into my head because I was reading this. And also we, John Shell, my business partner, he wrote Heathen, and he wasn't originally planning on printing it. So what we did was we reformatted it a bit, made it clean, made it like okay, this is going to be a solid comic. And then as a test, we actually printed it in manga size. That was whatever, I think it was Comics Wellspring or whatever. They literally had a sizing chart, and one says manga. And it's obviously cheaper because it's smaller, but we printed it off in that, and we got it in, and there was something about it being tiny that you're like, this is so cool. Like, I'm sure it would look cool this big, but for some reason this big, it just felt good. And so like we would thumb through it, and it was also a super big seller at all of our cons. Whenever we put it up, you can also lower the price point. You make it $5 or $4 or something like that, because really the print's like $1.20 on it or something. You know what I mean? So it's a really cool format. So I am curious, and this is me curious, asking a veteran what you're thinking.
I'm hardly a veteran. Please.
You are a veteran to me.
You offend me, sir. We're at the same level.
We're in the trenches together. I agree.
I think the trick, is to get the page count right, because your average manga is like about 200 pages.
Yeah.
So what it lacks in height and width, it makes up for in depth. And for also sure, that's a better read, right? Because a comic book, that's another thing. You finished it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas a manga, you can actually sit with it, right? So a lot of us indie creators, we don't have those high page counts for a lot of the indie comics we produce. So it might be something that you think about down the line, like, okay, I've done 5 issues of this comic book, 6 issues, 7 issues of this. Now let's crunch it down into a manga. For instance, for Kimi Kosmic, when I reach issue 10, then I'm going to reproduce it in the manga form.
Okay.
Because I know that 10 issues, about 20 to 30 pages an issue, that's a lot. That's about 250 page count.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And then that'll make what's gonna feel like a manga. So then when I shrink it down to that size, it'll be fat and it'll feel like something. And those formats, and then I also know that format will do well in the YA bookstores and the graphic novel marketplaces. So, somebody had a TikTok that it was a really simple analogy, and I'm like, wow, it made so much sense to me. It said, how much does a bottle of water cost? And you'd say, what, $1? It's like, well, where did you buy the bottle of water? If you bought it from Costco, that bottle of water is probably like, I don't know, 10 or 20 cents, right? Because you bought probably a tray of bottled water, right? Yeah. Right. But then if you bought it at the airport, it's like $17.
Right? Crazy. If you bought it at Busch Gardens or Disney, you have to mortgage your house.
The same bottle of water, right? So how much is a bottle of water, right? So this is kind of like makes me think about comic books and graphic novels and how like they don't really they have the value we kind of like assign to them.
Yeah. Okay.
like, you know, for instance, you putting your John Hancock on this, and beautiful signature, by the way. It gives it more value to me, right, as a collector and but a lot of times that signature wouldn't mean anything if I didn't know you. If somebody just showed me this comic book and said, hey, the creator signed it, I'm like, okay, cool, the creator signed it. That might give it some added value, but not as much as it does when I interact with you at a con or in real life. I'm like, okay, no, I want your signature on this comic because it's going to give me some sentimental value. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but
no, you did it to tell me how good my signature was, and I appreciate
absolutely. That's exactly why I did that.
That was the reason. Well, no, I struggle with that mainly because, and I want your opinion on this, because I think because you have the comic in front of you, I was thinking about doing that for artificial, similar like you're saying with Kimi Kosmic, getting to a certain point, shrinking that bad boy down. But I was looking at it the other day, and artificial, by design, is very art heavy. It is that is the point of it. The point of it is to allow human artists to really show what they have. It's a love letter to human creativity. It's not, you know, I would like to say I'm writing a decent story, but I really like when people open it and go, whoa, that's what I want. And that's why 9 times out of 10, if people ask about the comic, Gabriel Fonseca, my artist, I'm shouting him out. You'll hear his name 10 times before you hear my name once, because he really helped the comic be what it is. And it almost makes me go, I don't know if you'll see that little thing I put right here, or like this page in all of its glory, in a little manga size. So like, I almost feel like I wonder if it's a buy comic kind of thing. Like maybe this one would be better just to have like a nice hardcover volume, like a typical, you know, trade paperback or whatever, you know, but you do a hardcover special edition for a volume, or if it doesn't really matter.
You know, it's a very interesting thing and question, and I was wondering that same exact question when I saw the rollout for DC's books. So I've seen a couple of video reviews of the books, and they talk about it, and almost everyone has said that the art is maintained. In fact, some of the art looks even better when you shrink it down sometimes.
I can get that.
The only problem that they found was some of the text was not legible, because maybe mine's somebody
small in there.
And they had it. So I was thinking that, well, it would be a pain in the ass, and it would be a lot more. It would take a lot more art and design, but you could ideally shrink the pages and then keep you still have to shrink the bubbles down, but maybe not shrink them down as much. But you'd have to resize them and reposition them. It would be a lot of extra work, but that's one thing you could do to kind of transition it. Or, you know, what I'm thinking about also doing is producing it knowing that you're going to shrink it down. So maybe you make the text bubbles bigger from the beginning, or maybe you go the other way. Maybe you produce it as a manga and then blow it up to a comic book page. And then that way you start off in the smaller format so that it looks natural in that format. And then when you blow it up, you won't lose any information when you blow it up, versus shrinking it down and potentially losing information by shrinking it down.
For sure. I do think that's the smarter way of tackling it, is with the whole DC Digest coming out. And I agree. I would love to work towards one of my projects becoming manga size and being that really a nice, point of entry for someone in this generation. But I think it is probably a lot smarter to go like, okay, let me from the get-go plan to do that. You know, because artificial, I definitely was not planning on doing that. So at this point, I think that's definitely going to be to be completely honest, that's going to be a lot of extra work to resize those bubbles.
A lot of, and then especially the way these bubbles are done, especially. I mean, there's art within the bubbles themselves. It's like part of the page. Like,
that's Gabriel, man. I had him do the letters too, because I said I want this to be like you open it and you feel each and every piece of it is artistic.
So I don't think
All right.
Yeah, but
we'll
I mean, but
next project.
next project for sure. Right. Okay. But there's also other ways. I mean, even if you don't make it a manga size, just focusing on the graphic novel versus the floppy. Focusing on the book versus the comic book. I mean, somebody asked me what is a graphic novel, and I said it's a brand that allows grown men not to feel like they're reading comic books.
Look, I'm reading.
It's just a bunch of I mean, Alan Moore just recently went on this rant about graphic novels. He's like, they're not really graphic and they're not really novels. He was just saying like he was like, if you staple together 12 issues of She-Hulk, that's not a novel. And he's right. I mean he's so cynical. His cynicism is like he's the god of cynicism. But I mean he's right. But the trick that we play with the whole graphic novel concept is that we can be in bookstores, we can be in all these other places that comic books traditionally were not. And I can tell you will have a lot of success. In fact, talking about cons, I did the Schaumburg Literary Fest this year, and I was very successful there. And I was probably the only guy selling comics there. So cool. if you're the only person selling comics at a book fair, you're gonna stand out. And you'll get a lot of people like, I never bought a book before, or a comic book before, but this sounds interesting, especially something like Artificial, which is a little bit more highbrow and a little bit more high concept, would definitely, I think, stand out to a lot of book readers. So
it's funny how many like middle-aged white women have come up to me, and
I mean, because you got the whole Van Gogh thing going, they connect with that. So you know what I would do? Instead of trying to drive up to all those, the miles of the Florida Panhandle trying to get to Comic Cons, try to look up some of your art shows. And art shows and literary festivals, like regular book shows. Because I feel like every city in town has a bunch of those usually. And
not too many around here, but mainly because I'm kind of out in the boonies a bit. But I mean, it's within 30-40 minutes. I could probably find a couple of things. So that is going to be kind of a focus. Yeah,
I think you'd have a lot of success with a book like this. Especially at art shows, because the intersection because just as you said, this is a piece of art, right? So you could pitch this to a non-comic reader at an art show. As a piece of art, and they would be like, I don't have any comics, but I would definitely buy that because it's beautiful, and I know who Van Gogh is, and I like Van Gogh.
It's been a big selling point. I'm like, thank God I picked Van Gogh. Thank goodness. But no, that's a good idea, and I'll probably look into that. A couple more things before we touch into Kimi Kosmic. If you got a couple more minutes.
Actually, it's the wife's turn to put the baby down. So you got me.
You're chilling. You're fine.
I'm chilling.
Nice. You're doing your own. You're doing your own thing, just as hard. Let's not.
Yeah.
We're both everyone's working. Everyone's doing.
Yeah. No, we are.
This is a job.
He's just not going to sleep lately, so it's like, it's a little bit. I got a little bit of work.
Yep, I got you. But to your earlier point about this generation with comics and manga and stuff like that, I don't know if you followed this when I posted about it a while ago. I might not have been before we connected too much. And it does make me curious if you've ever considered doing something similar. But I was lucky enough to go into a local high school. I gave a TED talk to an art class because I knew the art director at the high school is a family friend, to the point where I actually almost got a job there as an art teacher. It was kind of a cool idea I was really throwing around, but instead I got into comics, and so I'm doing this. But she really liked the idea of what I was doing. She's like, you would not believe how many kids in my class love comics. And I didn't believe. I was like, wait, are you serious? I was like 15, 16-year-olds? She's like, yeah, they all love comic books, manga, they're all into it. They all have them all the time. And I was like, call me an old fogey, but like I was out of comics for a little bit, like I just wasn't super into them for a chunk of time in my life. And for some weird reason, I always considered them this collectible type old man, Superman 1, type deal of like, wait, kids are reading comic books still? Like, I didn't think that was a thing. And I was pleasantly surprised. So I go in there and I give an hour-long talk about, thankfully, Artificial One was my first book. Kind of went into Van Gogh, kind of went into the art aspect of it, went into the writing aspect of it. Had about maybe 40, 50 kids there, all listening, all engaged, taking notes, asking questions. And of course, I brought them all. I brought, like 60 books. So I just gave them all a book at the end. But it was really cool. And it did give me a little bit of like a little pep in my step of like, okay, like this is still a pretty active industry. Even the youth of today is still interested and engaged by comic books as a medium. And they were even asking questions about how to make their own. And then it turned out that the art director said that she was going to turn next year's project. They were going to do a collaborative project amongst the students, give each student an assigned thing, because I told them, I was like, there's a letterer, there's an inker, there's a colorist, there's a writer. And so she's going to separate them up and have them make their own comic books. And then she's considering about having me come back in after they're done and kind of grade them and like have talks about their comic books that they made and give another talk. But it was just super cool. And like, it really was a joy to do this and to like give this speech, talk about fake it till you make it. I'm over there like, yes, I'm really successful at comic books. You should listen to me and everything I have to say. But fake it till you make it.
No,
but I mean, they loved it. And I was just curious if that's ever anything you've seen, or maybe even, I think you would be probably great at that.
I've done something similar. I worked with Sotheby Institute of the Arts. We did a summer program with college-bound high school students, and it was about the creative process. So I spoke about music and comics, but they were totally into the comics. They definitely thought they were super cool. I mean, it's definitely, once again, I feel like comic books is just like a 30 plus thing, 35 plus, but that's actually
how I was thinking too.
You'd be surprised at how much they are into them, and they're aware of these characters even more so because they exist across so many mediums. They know them from the video games, they know them from these big huge billion-dollar movies. We only knew them through the comics. That was it. They have a million animated series. So I don't know if you see it through your son, but it's like I see my son finding out who Spider-Man is for the first time, finding out who the Ninja Turtles are for the first time, and how those characters, there's brand new shows with those characters for him. So it's not like I have to show him the Ninja Turtle show from the 90s in order for him to know who they are. It
is cool that they're still in the zeitgeist. They're still popular.
Right.
Kids still like them.
And
I get to do
arguably
that with them.
Some of the newer stuff is better than the classic stuff. Like the like the new Transformers comics are really good. Like it's interesting. So I think that you shouldn't be surprised that those kids were really into comics, because that's probably the coolest thing that they got to do all week, at least,
for sure.
in terms of school.
I didn't think about that at all. And it was so cool it was the coolest thing I got to do all week. And I was nervous a bit, but everyone, their eyes were locked on me. And I saw this one guy in the back taking tons of notes. And I'm like, this is really cool. Like not even like in a power trip kind of way of like, they're listening to me. It was just like, he's interested in this and I'm helping him. And it was just really cool. She asked if I can do it next year for her new class, or well, technically this year already started, so I have to get in touch with her, but we're going to do another one, but I'm super excited to do it again. John actually just wrote, sorry I couldn't make it tonight. The whole fam is under the weather. Thanks to the support of Blossom AJ. Much love.
Yeah, much love, John. Yep. Get better, man.
We miss you, buddy.
Ginger and garlic.
Yeah, just ginger, garlic, green tea. Just, right down the old pipe. Right as rain. All right. I think there was something else, but it wasn't super important. That's pretty much it. So let us talk. We'll wrap up Kimi Kosmic. So
yeah,
that was a fun little powwow that we just did about indie comics. Hope everyone learned a ton because I did. But
did you want to talk Valiant at all?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely down with that. I have not been following your work as much. I just know what you've been writing. I would love to know how you're doing with it or how it's going.
I'm having a blast with writing Valiant comics. Just because. So
before you start, let me just say one thing to preface what you're about to say.
Mm-hmm.
So you got hired on as an artist to write this series that isn't yours, correct? Like it's not an IP you created. You're writing for an IP.
Right. So the Valiant universe is the third largest ongoing superhero universe next to Marvel and DC. They've been around since the 90s. They were created by Jim Shooter. It's they have characters like Exo, Man-O-War, and Ninjak and Bloodshot, who actually got a movie with Vin Diesel.
I'm more familiar with Bloodshot and Ninjak, but yeah.
Yes. So Valiant has had a couple different iterations of their comic book characters over the years. They've been owned by a couple different companies, and now the current iteration is partnered with Alien Books, which is a international company. So they're being published by Alien Books, but they are known as Valiant Comics. Anyway, that's a lot of yabber. But I'm working on right now. I have Ninjak versus Roku, which is out in stores right now. Issues 1 through 3 are out, and issue 4 is coming out next month. So yeah, you guys can check that out if you're into really cool assassin comics. Essentially, Ninjak is basically if you took Batman and you mixed him with 007.
Yeah.
And Roku is an undead assassin and his ex-girlfriend. So they get the same mission. Are they going to kill each other, or are they going to clear the mission first? So Ninjak versus Roku, that is out in comic book stores right now.
Of course, I get this right here. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. And
the cool. I mean, hey, I don't. There's only at this stage of our careers, and ours. I keep saying stuff like that, but just seeing this right here, this little AJ right here, that's cool, man.
Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely the cherry on top, man. Ninjak is a character who's
a little buggy.
I read in the 90s. So being able to write him now as an adult is crazy, full circle. And then the other announcement is that I will be writing Shadow Man. So if you want to type in Shadow Man Soul Eaters. Shadow Man is another character from Valiant, he's like their supernatural character. He's almost like a Spawn or like a Blade.
Up right away, dude.
There's actually the buzz on Shadow Man is pretty high. So I'm actually writing a couple different books. Shadow Man Soul Eaters is coming out in October, and also Tales from the Dead Side, which is a Shadow Man tie-in that kind of expands the lore of Shadow Man. So that is all coming out in October. So right now Valiant is in the middle of a storyline called Resurgence, and essentially it's kind of like it's not a reboot, but it's like a resurgence of their continuity. So I'm co-writing that storyline with the Shadow Man and Ninjak stories. So I'm really hype about these. Ninjak versus Roku is like military, espionage ninja stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and Shadow Man is supernatural horror. So both comics are very different in tone. I really had fun writing Tales from the Dead Side, which
you
is
got your
Shadow
likeness
Man
here
side.
really well.
Yeah.
we got to get you a nice writer picture. You know what I mean? A nice one. This is wild, dude. It's so cool.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm really hype about that. I've been working on this stuff. This has been taking up most of my time this year, is just trying to get these books right. You know, this is my debut into mainstream superhero comics.
Yeah.
So getting a shot like this was huge. The editor, Lisa Hawkins, she took a chance on me, and so far the reviews have been great. And working on mainstream comics is very different than working in indie as your own indie publisher. It's completely different. You know, you have a lot less to worry about, but then you have a lot less control. So you're more just like you really are just a hired, I don't want to say a hired hand, but you're just a hired creative, if you will.
You're just an employee.
Right.
Who's writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got it.
But it's still great to be able to connect with the fans and connect with everyone who likes Valiant Comics and just people giving me a chance. So yeah, I just wanted to just plug that real quick. No,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Valiant, keep using them, and let's get a picture up, please.
Yeah, I know, right?
We need a picture.
I mean, I'm writing Shadow Man. I don't have to actually be a shadow.
But, for real. Took that a little literally there, guys. Let's get him a picture.
But yeah, okay. So let's talk about Kimi Kosmic. Yeah. So actually, we are in. So I have my space cowboy adventure, Kimi Kosmic. She's a space cowboy who has to unravel the mystery of her half alien heritage to prevent an evil corporation from enslaving her people. And this is a 7-chapter, 7-issue comic book, graphic novel, manga.
All the above.
All the above. No, it's a funny book, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, she is a space cowboy, and she wrangles these bioluminescent farm animals called quadpods. One day she's visited by a mysterious space knight who has a mystery about her once thought lost family. So the original graphic novel we made was 130 pages, 5 issues, beautifully colored and illustrated.
The color palette's like right up my alley. I love.
Thank you so much.
Color palette. Yeah.
So I actually kind of selected the color palette myself, and I spent a lot of time. I'm trying to hold it at an angle because it's light.
I saw that TikTok that you mentioned. Yeah, that you were going over it, which that's great content. That's stuff I want to do as well. But yeah.
Yeah. So this was a fun book, but right now we have the Kickstarter. Thank you. We have the Kickstarter for the next 2 issues, issue 6 and 7. And these are the next 2 chapters in the Kimi Kosmic saga. So the Kickstarter is up right now.
Yeah, man.
We got 3 days left on the Kickstarter. So
and you made goal, and that was today, right?
Yeah, we made our goal today. That's awesome. Always a huge feeling to make your goal. So this type of content I feel like doesn't do extremely well on Kickstarter. Kickstarter, I feel like Kickstarter comics is more mature.
Okay, yeah, you mean the actual comic itself?
Yeah, just because a lot of the stuff I see doing well on Kickstarter is definitely more mature, but
I mean it's the elephant in the room, but the not safe for work stuff is
right.
It's just where the money's at currently, which is just what it is. And,
it just is what it is, but I'll say that Kimi Kosmic, from my experience at conventions, is my top selling book.
Yeah.
And it has,
and your age range is around, like, what would you recommend for it?
So, from a reading level, I think it's like around like a 5th grade reading level and up, I think.
Okay.
But I don't think that is super applicable in regards to the theme level, I would say.
Yeah.
I think
You could
I think it
probably have a parent
definitely
read it to their child who's younger.
right.
Or like content wise, it's
But I definitely think it's a book that anyone can appreciate. You know, I compare it to something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where you know that's right.
Yeah.
I think that kids can watch it and they can get it, but adults can absolutely appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
So
I definitely don't cry at the end. So yeah, keep going.
There's a lot of themes. There's a lot of themes in Kimi that's mature and thought provoking. So I definitely encourage everyone to take a chance on it. And you know, maybe you know somebody in your family who might think it's cool too. So
yeah. No, I loved all the previews I saw. Like, oh yeah, and that foil cover's just beautiful.
We got the
who
rose
you
gold
print.
So this one I printed on Wellspring.
Okay.
The foil.
Here,
so I use different.
That way we can be.
So
we can be up.
yeah, sure. So this is the rose gold foil cover of Kimi Kosmic. You see,
That's
she got
cool.
her belt buckle. So dope belt buckle. Yeah, I really like this.
No, it's sick. You showed me that last time, and I was like, I need to get something like that. It's so cool.
Yep. It will blind you.
Sick, yeah, it will.
I use Wellspring for that.
Okay. We got a local shop we found near us called Comics Impressions that I heard a lot of people are using. They had an example book of like just blank pages basically, but with all the different things you can do. One of them was that like a gold foil, looks sick. So we're gonna use them and probably have some fun on a nice cover.
Even though this foil came out pretty cool, I think I used too much foil on this cover. My recommendation is less is more. So if I were to do it all over again, I probably would have just done her belt buckle and maybe like something else, like because you want the foil to stand out. Yeah.
No, I got you.
So
I do love this cover too.
Yeah.
By the
So
way.
I
know it's
not
the interior art, but
right. No, I wanted to speak about that cover real quick. That so shout out Astronym. She did that cover. She is like a really dope artist. She's done stuff with like Scholastic and like Oni Press and a bunch of other things, and her color design and her line work is just really fluid, and I love it. Really excited to get a cover from her. So all the people who contributed to the campaign who got the alternate cover, you guys are gonna luck out with that one.
It's so good looking. I mean, the whole thing's great, but then every once in a while you get that nice alternate cover. You're like, oh, this is nice. This is something special. See, there you go. Just send this over. You got something. I like it. And Letter Squids, man, he's everywhere. John's used him a couple times. He's awesome.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. He is really good to work with. He's just got a great track record, and yeah, as you notice, he seems to work with everyone, which is great.
Yeah, he's got a great. Yeah, people love him. So, and he does great work. I will say that he's the only reason I didn't use him is I used Gabriel, and it was
right.
He was having
listen,
fun with
you
it,
won. You won with that. I remember from Artificial #1. I was like, who did your lettering? Wait, the artist did the lettering, and he did it that good. Yeah, no, because he knew how to make. He's making the lettering part of the art, and
so we never ran into moments where we're like, man, where's the bubble fit? No, he like was drawing.
Yeah,
he knew what the script was. He knew where the bubble was going to go. So it was just perfect. So like I'm going to try and keep that going as much as possible. But Letter Squids is awesome. I only hear good things. So we got obviously your digital bundle. Get the graphic novel volume 1 PDF 1 through 5, 6 and 7, which is the new issues that are out now. I've been doing this. Just curious if you've thought about it or not. But with these, are you on Global Comics?
No, I'm not. That's one of the places I have to still get on. I just got on.
Super easy to use.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I love it. I honestly love it. I do. it is definitely a volume type business to where, or like app to where, like I could see if I'm Marvel, I'm going to make a nice chunk of money because I have hundreds of thousands of people reading my book. You know, I'm right now getting 5 cents every month. You know what I mean? It's like that. But I mean, I'm not necessarily on there just for the money as much as I really like the interface. I like the owner.
I've heard a lot of good things about Global Comics, actually.
I've had private DMs with the owner. I've had literally like moments where I'm like, hey, this feature isn't working well, or it would be really cool if this happened. And then next he's like, yeah, I'm on it. It's kind of, they're nice people. So like I highly recommend jumping on Global Comics if you can. The main reason I asked was with Artificial 2, what I did with my digital was I did the PDF, because everyone always loves the PDF. Obviously, that's what they came for, the digital. But then I sent each person a Global Comics code. That way they could also view it on Global Comics. If they wanted to have it on like if they wanted it part of their digital library that they have. I see what you're saying.
Okay. So that was one of the, or I mean, you could even just not even bother with sending them the PDF. You could just send them the Global Comics code.
You know how humans, right?
Yeah,
so humans don't like change, which is unfortunate. But I had that thought as well. And the beautiful thing about Global Comics is they have a download PDF button, because as the creator, I go on there, I literally put my PDF into Global Comics. It formats it, makes it readable on the app. So if you have the code, you can read it on the app, and then you can digitally download the PDF. That way you have the PDF too. So it really is a win-win and a super easy way to read your comics. But I had people not super happy that they didn't get a PDF. And I'm like, because I tested it with Artificial 1 just to see what people thought. And then I ended up just sending everyone the PDF, because everyone was like, well, where's my PDF? I paid for the PDF. And I'm like, well, just get it on Global Comics and then download the PDF if you want. But you have it like on your iPad, you have it on your phone, you have it everywhere. I was like, it's really cool. You should try it. And humans, we're not fans of change. So, but I will say, I do think, I'm praying it catches on, because I really like the idea of digital comics. I think digital comics is where the future is going to go. And I would recommend getting on Global Comics. It's not going to hurt you.
I've come 360 on digital comics, or 360 on physical comics, actually. So I started off like everyone, just reading comics all my life. And then I moved to New York City in like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And then when I did that, I brought a bunch of my comic book boxes with me, thinking that I would have space in New York City.
Yeah.
And living in a tiny apartment, I was just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I can't do this anymore. So I sold like all my comics. And what I did was, I was like, all right, I'm not going to sell all my comics and give up on comics. I'm going to take all the money I get from the comics that I bought, and then I'm going to repurchase all of my favorite comics digitally.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So I went and I just bought everything that I like digitally. And then I lasted like that for like a decade, where Comixology was my favorite app. Like I would just read comics on the train. And then freaking Comixology went ahead and sold themselves to Amazon. And during that whole transition, I just got super frustrated with it. Like I got pissed off at the app, and I got pissed off at the acquisition. And then I didn't like how everything got moved. So during that period of frustration is when I kind of started making my own comics. So now we're going back to like 2018, 2019. And as I'm making my own comics, I'm starting to get into the indie comic book community, and I'm starting to go on Kickstarter. I'm starting to support other people's comics, and I'm starting to learn about printing comics myself. So I start buying physical comics for the first time in about 10 years. Because I'm like, well, I have to look at comics now physically if I'm going to start making them. So now I stopped buying digital comics, and now I only buy physical comics again. So I literally just bought 2 long boxes on Amazon. I had to explain to my wife. Nice. She's like, what are those? Because I got the nice like padded long boxes. I'm I'm not getting that old school cardboard stuff. I'm upgrading. So I got the nice soft padded long boxes. Right, exactly. And this literally the first long boxes I've purchased in like 15 years. So now I feel weird because I don't like, I still buy digital comics and I still consume digital comics. on Kindle and like Global Comics, and Drive Through Comics is where a lot of people get their digital comics too. But now if there's a comic I really want, now I don't like, I want to get it physical now, as opposed to digital. But with all that being said, I do think the digital landscape is growing, where there's just a lot of readers who are, reading it. But before, when I was reading digital comics, it was just Comixology. Now you have Kindle, you have Global Comics, you have Drive Through Comics, you have a bunch of other apps and websites, or you're just getting PDFs from the creators themselves, and just reading those PDFs. So and that's just digital comics, which to me is different than web comics. 100%. Because the web comics are created specifically to be consumed on websites, and really mainly on your phone, so that the infinite scroll. So when you look at webtoons and how they have the infinite scroll of webtoons, and that is interesting because I don't prefer to read comics like that, but that is a generational thing.
My wife,
the new kids, they love that infinite scroll comic book reading. I it's just weird. Like I feel like I don't know when the comic begins and when it ends. Like it just feels weird to me.
I almost get to a point where I'm like, okay, are we getting towards the end? It's going so long.
I have no sense of pacing, I feel like, when I read those types of comics. But I think that once again, it's got to be a perception thing, because I think about the scroll versus the flip of a page, and it really is not that different. So why do I, like I said, I'm just rejecting it, because I've been reading comics one way my entire life, and it's hard to unlearn it. But
boomer life.
Going back to our earlier conversation about changing the format of your book and seeing how that sells, I really want to make Kimi Kosmic into a web comic. And then a lot of people are like, well, you can't do that. You'd have to reformat the whole thing, and that's impossible. Like literally, somebody told me that the other day, and I was like, it's not impossible, because I literally that's what they're doing now. Like there's a bunch of really popular webtoons that they're making that they're printing, and then they're taking a lot of manga that's in print and they're making it into infinite scroll. There is some mixture there is some loss of like information. Like
for sure,
if you have a 2-page comic book spread, right? You can't put that in a webtoon. Like there's no way. You got to chop it up, and it looks all messed up. Like I've seen it actually. So there are some things that won't transition. But there are some things that do. And once again, if you think about it from the creative point, when you first make the comic, you're like, hey guys, we're gonna make this comic read in a regular comic book format and on webtoons. So make sure the panels are sized a certain way so that when we can easily transition it, I think you're setting yourself up for success later on by thinking about the different formats that your comic book can live in. And once again, paying attention to what the audience is digesting and seeing if you can get your book into that format.
No, it's smart to think down the line for sure. Like the long game is important. Like I'm going to do that with a lot of projects moving forward. So 100%. Okay. My wife just texted me. She's ready for bed.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get.
I'm going to not rush, but I would like everyone to please go check out the Kimi Kosmic Kickstarter. It looks awesome. You're getting a lot of stuff. I didn't realize that you're already up to issue 7 already. I want people to know that this is a story that we're going to try to we are going to continue. How many issues do you plan, do you think?
So
or you just letting it go?
I have 5 story arcs for Kimi Kosmic planned.
Got it. And
this would be the second. Issue 6 and 7 is the beginning of the second story arc. So there's I can leak the titles. Can I leak the titles?
No, don't leak the titles.
Yeah, let's leak the titles.
Okay.
But I'll say the next storyline is Space Outlaws. So what I think I'm going to do is, initially it was going to be called Kimi Kosmic Space Outlaws, but I think I'm gonna call it Space Outlaws: A Kimi Kosmic Adventure. So
I
it
like
feels
that.
like something. It feels like something different. It feels like something new, but it really is just the second volume.
I would say that that's the winner. I like that one.
Thank you. And I'm really jazzed. I'm working with some new artists, building my art teams, expanding my art teams. And I'm getting into a vibe now, which is comic book production, just learning how to do it properly and print the books. And so
I mean,
you guys support.
Please support everyone. And you might as well get everything. It only makes sense if you ask me. So get everything, especially if you haven't gotten anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, we also have my other sci-fi comic, Drone Slayer X is in there too. So you'll get a copy of that, which is really, really cool. So
yeah, man. 100%. All right, everybody. I would highly recommend you go check out Kimi Kosmic. You only have 3 days left, right? Yeah, only got 3 days, so hurry up. I'll probably go check it out, see whatever I can get. Once again, I'm in a similar boat of just being super strapped right now. But I did show my daughter because I was curious. I was like, "Would you be interested in this?" And she thought it looked awesome. So it might be something I can get for her to read because she's starting to get into comics now, which is awesome.
Awesome.
So everyone, please go get it. Go support them. Thanks so much for watching. AJ, as always, it's fun. I would love to set aside another time coming up soon where there's so much we could chat about. Make some content.
Let's do this every once in a while.
Yeah, man. I'm down.
And keep it going. And please keep me posted. Like I said, I grabbed Blossom. I got Artificial. I noticed that you have Orium or
Orium.
From Orium.
That was our first a publisher.
Okay.
A guy from Scotland had a really cool comic, and we asked if he'd be interested to publish it under BentBox, and he said yes. So that's our first published book.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And it's pretty cool.
And Sundown.
Sundown's coming as fast as I can get it to get here. That one's by me, but it's a beast of a story, and I'm very excited about it. But it's going to be a long process to get that thing done.
That cover looks pretty awesome.
It's Gabriel Fonseca, same guy who did Artificial. It's sick. It's a gorgeous looking book. But
I'm just excited for everything you guys got coming out. Wait a minute. So did you have Orium? Was that on the Artificial Kickstarter?
No, not on the Artificial Kickstarter. I don't even think it's on our website yet. We're going to be adding it to our website.
Okay.
And then it's on Global Comics.
Okay.
You can even read the first 6 pages on Global Comics if you want to take a look at it. But
okay. Yeah, because I was about to say definitely have that back catalog up there on when you do your every new Kickstarter for sure.
Yeah. Well, since that one was the other creator, I was like, I'm just going to stick with Artificial for now.
I see what you're saying.
But we are making that move. We even discussed it to where we're going to start adding the BentBox bundle kind of deal where you can get everything as you go.
Definitely. So
that's a good idea, and we're going to try and do that moving forward.
Yep.
But you heard it here first. AJ came up with it, so he gets all the credit. That's fine with me. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. AJ, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Peace.
Everyone, say see ya and go get yourself some Kimi Kosmic. All right, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right, guys. Yep.